So I've been getting into this debate with a few of my friends around multiculturalism. Thought I'd post a quick video about it, see what you guys think, see if anybody cares. Anyway, so I looked up, thought we'd start with the definition, of course, of multiculturalism, and we go from there, right? It says multiculturalism is the existence, acceptance, or promotion of multiple cultural traditions within a single community, society, or country. It recognizes and celebrates cultural diversity, encouraging people of different ethnic, religious, or cultural backgrounds to coexist, maintaining their unique identities. Now, I would be hard pressed to say it's a bad thing that people can live peacefully together. I don't know what crazy person would say something like that. I think what really comes in more into question is, has multiculturalism actually led to a more peaceful society? Is that what's important here? Right? Because perhaps it has led to a less safe society, but also it allows people to do what they want, which is be with the people that they want to see and love, right? I certainly wouldn't argue that, you know, somebody shouldn't be able to be with the person they love because they're of a different ethnic background. I couldn't disagree more with that. The question would be more so, has America, has the world gotten better? Will it continue to be better as we further integrate cultures? Now, I guess the question would come out, is it important? Is it helpful even if there is a dominant culture in a society? Maybe a bigger question would be, as I said earlier, does it actually matter if it benefits society or whether it's just right? Of course, maybe it would be reasonable to say, multiculturalism is not a success. And if that's true, well, then maybe people shouldn't be integrating cultures because then both people will be happier and have better lives. And maybe that should be allowed, right? If Mexico and California or Mexico and America realize, hey, it's better if we stick to our own, and that's factually supported by all evidence, is it wrong to do that? Is it racist to do that? Probably not. Now, what sort of policies am I really thinking of? Well, one would be immigration. I mean, seems like Trump in America, a group of Republicans are currently believing that immigration is inherently a bad thing, or at least at a certain level. Like once it surpasses 5 million a day, I'm sure at a certain point it becomes, not helpful for the society. And that seems reasonable. It's just a question of, well, has it been helpful or hurt? One of my friends I was speaking with, he said, blah, 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 you idiot. You know, of course, multiculturalism's been a benefit. Think of jazz, right? We wouldn't have cool football teams and NBA teams. I mean, I thought that was a funny way to justify multiculturalism. It's just as if jazz is just an inherently black thing that couldn't have been come up with by a white person or an Asian. I mean, it didn't, but maybe if the blacks have been held out for long enough, the jazz would have just existed 15, 10 years later, maybe 50. I don't know. Maybe I never would have come around. Maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe jazz doesn't matter towards the value and how good a society's doing and whether they should make decisions on multiculturalism is whether or not one society had jazz versus the other. That's what came to my mind at least. But it is tough to say. Multiculturalism in this country was built on Christianity and Catholic norms. I personally think those are some incredible norms. I do believe that pretty much every Abrahamic religion has very similar norms. I mean, of course, Muslims a little bit different on the age of consent, and but similar values in terms of what's really important. I think probably that age of 13 was misunderstood, misinterpreted, or just made up by people rather than, you know, if the wisdom God exists, that God, right? But could be wrong about that. Anyway, that's just a place I wanted to start. Multiculturalism. What is it? What are my feelings on it? Well, I want to look at whether or not it's benefited society. And then I think people should act on that information to ensure that their lives are the best that they can be. If Black people found out that moving to America worsen their lives on average, don't come to America. Go somewhere else that's going to improve your lives. Because I want what's best for everyone in the world. And I think people love contrarian points of view where you're like, the Democrats and Republicans, they both suck. But the point of here of this channel is to talk philosophy, politics. You know what I'm saying? Philotese and philotines and philotics. That's what we're looking to solve out here. It's all about love. It's all about trying to find the truth. So that's what we're looking for out here on this channel. Hopefully, I'm not wasting your time out here, but I'm enjoying myself. Now, what should we talk next about, chat? I guess, the next step of multiculturalism kind of leads into, well, uh, what's it called when the Asian and blacks get into college easier? That stuff. You know, does it make sense that we should prioritize based on race? Does it make sense that we should prioritize based on any stuff to say? I mean, prioritizing based on race seems crazy. I mean, the reason that we have, I guess the reason we have requirements for jobs and CEOs and stuff like that is less to say, oh, multiculturalism is good, and more to say, like, make sure you're not, being against females. But my point is, well, what if females suck at a job and you only want men? What if men suck at a job and you only want to hire women? That should be okay. You shouldn't have to hire three men who are useless or worse at their jobs just because they're men. And that's where I feel like it's an application of the multiculturalism movement, right? It's like, well, why should we let in these Mexicans and Puerto Ricans, rather than letting in white people from Sweden, etc. It's like it's a melting pot in America, you know? And it's like, well, it sounds like we're prioritizing some over others because we figure that that's going to be beneficial, right? It's like we already have all men, so let's get a woman in there. We already have a bunch of whites, so let's get some browns in there. But like, there's nothing inherent. Well, I mean, I do think there are inherent differences between males and females, but doesn't mean that you can apply that to the individual, right? Same with cultures. There may be differences between the cultures, but that doesn't mean you can apply that to the individual immigrant who's coming into the country. So I'm not sure if it makes sense to have such requirements or privileges based on race. I'm not sure that multiculturalism is even a real thing. It's just there are people. How do you hang out with them? Because I've hung out with 100 different people from a Mexican culture, and I've enjoyed speaking with five of them. But I've also spoken with 100 white people, and I've enjoyed speaking with two of them. So I don't think culture really weighs as much into it when it comes down to the individual. I suppose that's the same as race, right? You're supposed to say, oh, the truth is blacks have a lower IQ than whites, but you're supposed to say, well, we wouldn't apply that to the individual. And I agree 100%. We should not apply that to the individual because we could be speaking with a black person with the IQ of 150, right? Just because their IQ is on average worse than ours doesn't mean that there's not someone smarter than me or for 50. But I might even be dumber than all of them, right? I could have an IQ of 36. Hopefully not. That would suck, but it is possible. And I mean, that brings me a funny story. I was speaking with one of my really great friends, uncle, and it was at a wake. So, things get pretty heavy. And we started talking about some important, deeper issues about truth and, bettering yourself and finding the best situation for you and your family. And like race came up. I forgot exactly how. I think it was about college admissions. And and I said that, right? I said, well, you can't apply the generality to the individual. Eh, There's no reason to do that. You don't have any evidence to actually assume that. And he said to me, yeah, you're right. But throughout life, you'll learn that you can. You can make assumptions about people based on race and culture, etc. And the funny thing is, right, I didn't argue that it wouldn't work. Like on average, you don't talk to black people, you probably be robbed less, right? You'll also probably be less likely to know how to roll a backwood. You'll probably also be less likely to have drank lean in your life. Both of which things, personally, may have been done. So I don't know. I mean, I guess, well, that leads into multiculturalism a bit, right? Is, well, I wouldn't be able to have sipped lean and roll a backwood if I haven't been almost robbed by a black person, which also happened, right? I was walking next to a black person. I had no reason to believe he would steal from me. And then he tried swiping my keys right out of my pocket. So, I probably would have been better off if every time I saw a black boy, I tucked my lanyard into my pocket, you know? And the thing is, am I supposed to like get robbed the next time and every time after that because I'm stupid and have to leave it out in my pocket? Or is it smart to put it back in your pocket and reasonable? And maybe that's something that's okay, right? I'm not actually doing anything to anybody. I'm moving my lanyard back in my pocket because I assume, well, not assume that that you'll rob me, but I know it's a possibility, right? So it is interesting, isn't it? It seems like throughout my discussion here with my friend's uncle and through my own experiences, multiculturalism has, well, perhaps I'm just pointing out individual negatives rather than saying on that spend. Well, I mean, after talking with my guy, he did tell me that on net you'll be right at the end of your life. Although I might just say that being racist has led him to, is that always an application against multiculturalism? I guess. I mean, I guess it's against specific cultures, which is fair, right? I mean, I don't like the Chinese. I mean, Chinese people are fine, but their government I do not trust, But I guess that has nothing to do with their culture, right? I wouldn't say Chinese are inherently shifty like the Jews. Gosh, I'm having fun out here, Chad. I hope you guys are enjoying my random, stupid, nonsensical words, but I'm enjoying myself out here. Philippines unite and we will be happy. So, at the end of the day, it does seem wrong for people who are, in college and the Asians are having a harder time getting in than the blacks. That seems wrong. And it's not just multiculturalism. That's like maybe one push past it, right? That's right. Like it's saying that multiculturalism is inherently good. And I don't think there's anything inherent about it when you apply it to the individual. So, and on net, it's actually seems to be beneficial to not be multicultural, right? So, I mean, should people look at race statistics and say, oh, whites that marry blacks, they always get divorced and their kids are always poor and adopted or whatever, right? Does that mean whites should never marry blacks? I mean, probably not, but it would make me more wary, I suppose. I mean, it's like my friends pointed out all of these Heisenberg type names, if you get my drift. Wink, wink. Berg names, in a lot of high and important places. That means specific things about that specific Heisenberg Berg type people? Probably not. Probably means nothing. Just means that individuals are bad, and then they teach their sons to be bad and selfish. But is being selfish wrong? Truly, is being selfish wrong? I think it depends on what point you lead it to, right? I mean, and I guess like what's the definition of selfish, right? We started with the definition of multiculturalism here today. And if we go to the definition of selfishness, that's to me, that's not something I'll probably accept ChatGPT for, unfortunately, because acting out of self-interest would, you know, robbing every person in my street and killing them in the middle of the night because I get an extra $50. Would that be beneficial if I don't get caught? You know? Like, so that would that be selfish? I mean, yeah, if the only reason he did it was just to get $50, but like more than that, that would be killing someone, which is that's the sin, not the selfishness, I suppose. Right? Because just working really hard because you want to have a ton of nice stuff. I mean, I guess it's selfish, but is it wrong? I inherently say no. Selfishness is not wrong. And I don't think that you can say, oh, but this person did a terrible thing out of selfishness. Well, that sounds like a them problem. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't sound like a me problem. That sounds like a you problem. You know what I'm saying? So, multiculturalism, quick few points. Selfishness, just a quick little touch on it, but you know, I'm trying, guys. And hopefully I'll come back and talk to you all again sometime soon.